So today I thought I would make a car vid about something that is always pertinent um, when we examine these ideas, these manifesting and law of assumption, law of attraction ideas, whatever you want to call them. These ideas of utilizing your imagination, utilizing your thoughts and feelings, your emotions to improve how you feel and also in turn improve your external world. Whenever we hear about this stuff on social media platforms like YouTube, um, it's important to keep in mind what we're going to discuss, which is basically this. Okay, um, most law of assumption, law of attraction coaches, we'll say specifically here more like law of assumption coaches, because I know in this channel there's a lot of people who come from that community, and I got into a lot of these ideas through Neville myself. Um, so we'll focus on law of assumption coaches, but also this obviously applies to law of attraction coaches just as much. Um, but like most of the law of assumption coaches you see on here on YouTube, and this could also be Instagram or TikTok. I'm just not as familiar at all with those platforms in terms of who's on there, and I'm relatively familiar with who's on YouTube when it comes to law of assumption, who has channels and stuff like that. Um, anyway, most of the coaches on here are lying to you in regards to um, how this process is going to play out for you, how this process of feeling differently and having your world change, your reality change because you feel different, how that process is going to unfold for you. Now, a lot of these coaches don't know they're lying, and some do know they're lying. Uh, but regardless, the large majority of law of assumption coaches that talk about how things are going to work for you um, are incorrect, in my opinion. In the sense that um, these principles are so based upon your sensibilities in terms of how they work. So there's the general principles, right, which we like to go over, and the kind of stuff that Neville always talked about in regards to the law, right? Um, but then there's your sensibilities and your personal experiences, your personal history, your history of success, your history of failure, your history of trauma. All of that plays an enormous part in how this process for both good and bad unfolds for you, and how you are going to become more aware of how you feel and shift how you feel into more desired states, or desired ways of thinking and feeling. It's really not a cut and dry thing. And the way Neville explains the process is pretty straightforward, but it's just his way. His way. And while he gave so many phenomenal recommendations for how to feel differently, right? And focus more on how you feel than what's going on in your external world in your 3D, and then see your 3D change because you feel differently. When he gave, even though he gave so many wonderful, instructions for how to do that, and I'll link above to the mini course we did earlier this year, just exploring how simple and succinct a lot of those instructions were. Even though he gave specific instructions, it doesn't mean it's going to unfold for you in the same way that he always describes. And he says it can unfold in many different ways, mind you. But it's not always going to unfold like the way he explains it. And it's certainly not going to unfold in the way that these law of assumption coaches often make it seem like it will. Like, you do this for a certain amount of time and then this is going to happen. You know? It's not that simple or nuanced, usually. Sometimes it can be. Sometimes you really can just do this one technique or whatever, and you manifest what you want a couple of days later. I mean, that can happen, sure. I'm not denying that. But generally speaking, the process is so much more nuanced and there's so much to it because it's your life. It's your livelihood. That it's just not this cut and dry, black and white thing. And I've been thinking about this recently. I often think about this topic because it's very pertinent to my life and to, the clients I work with, their lives. But I've been thinking about this topic a lot because, I've been discussing recently robotic affirmations, so-called robotic affirmations, Sammy Ingram style of repeating something over and over and over again. I've been discussing that a lot recently. And I really like that tool. We had that recent group session, I'll link above if you haven't seen it, where I spoke a lot about robotic affirmations and just affirming things in that way, and also other ways of affirming, right? It's not like robotic affirmations are the only way to auto-suggest something to yourself. Clearly not, right? To consciously auto-suggest something that you want in your life. There's all these other ways. There's the more traditional Coué way. There's the Joseph Murphy way. There's talking out loud. There's so many different ways to consciously suggest what you want, not just repeating something over and over again. But anyway, I've had a couple clients recently and gotten emails and gotten questions about robotic affirming, people who are using robotic affirming. And, what I've tried to convey to those people, and like what I'm trying to convey in this video, is that it's not the way these people, including Sammy Ingram, explain it's going to happen for you process-wise a lot of the time. It's not. It's too simplistic a take. It can happen like that, but it very well might not. And when you robotically affirm something, and make it good what you robotically affirm if you are robotically affirming. When you robotically affirm something, it's not like it's just going to show up after you say it 10,000 times or even 100,000 times. It's not that simple. It's not. I'm sorry. It's not. This is a tool, a technique. It's just one approach of hundreds that you could utilize to get these principles to hopefully work better in your life. And I like it, the repeating something over and over robotically, quote unquote robotically, because you can use it when you feel like crap. And a lot of these tools that we hear recommended, including a lot of the tools that Neville recommended, involve you feeling pretty relaxed and good before you can really utilize it. Active affirming, robotic affirming, you don't have to do it. You can just say something over and over again. But do you really think just saying something over and over and over again, thousands, tens of thousands of times, if you don't really believe it, is going to make that thing come into your life quickly? Well, if you think it can, it more likely will. But I'm here to tell you that it probably fucking won't. It's not that simple. If there's something that you see as being hard to attain and you can't get behind it, you don't resonate it much, but you are, stating it over and over and over again, it's going to gradually shift how you think and feel about this thing you're stating. That's what robotic affirming does well. It gradually shifts how you think and feel about it. But it's not a magical technique. If you go from like, oh, there's no way this is going to happen, to, I guess I can see a way this is going to happen, that's a really huge improvement. And that's the beauty of robotic affirming. But that doesn't mean the thing is going to come to you quickly. It still might take years. How do you like to hear that? All this SP nonsense. People who have awful concepts of themselves and awful emotional boundaries when it comes to relationships, and then manifest, they want to manifest the perfect SP. It's not going to happen quickly, probably. You got too much inner work to do. And the robotic affirming can help you do that inner work and put you on the right track. It can inspire you to take more, proper actions to get your act together in terms of improving your own life, your own self-concept, and improving your relationship with other people in turn, which can lead to that perfect SP. But this is not fucking magic. This is not going to happen in 10 days, 20 days, 30 days probably. It's probably not going to happen in 3 months or 6 months. You got to do the inner work. And there's all these different techniques which are different ways of doing the inner work. But don't think the tool that you use is going to solve everything unless it really feels that way to you, unless you really resonate with it. Because if you really resonate with it and believe in it fully, it's changing you and you're noticing it, changing you profoundly, and you feel good. Too many people using these LOA, law of assumption tools, don't feel good when they're doing them. And that's okay. But it's not going to be an easy peasy, fast manifesting process if you don't believe it's going to happen in all likelihood for something you really want. It can help, for sure. And there are plenty of exceptions. But generally speaking, don't mistake the tool for what you're going for. It's like, you use a shovel to dig a hole to plant something. The shovel is not the thing you plant. The process is made simplistic when it's not simplistic. And plenty of people can disagree with that. That's fine. I'm not like law of assumption coaches and trying to simplify things to a ridiculous level where it's no longer helpful. I'm here to help simplify these ideas so you can actually use them. But that takes maturity and honesty to really use them for yourself in the way that you think is going to work for you and feels right for you. Active affirming, robotic affirming certainly can be one of those tools. But this is about getting real with yourself. And the more real we get, usually we find it more and more easy then to shift our state more often and for good, to change who we are on a deeper level. It's not superficial stuff. It's not like saying, "Oh, I've got this beautiful, I've got tomatoes. I'm using this shovel. I've got tomatoes." No, you use the shovel to dig the fucking hole. You plant the tomato plant, and then you water the tomato plant, take care of it, and 3 months later, the tomatoes show up. That process interests me. And I think it interests a lot of people who watch this channel. That process is more of the nitty-gritty, real process when it comes to these ideas. So I hope that was helpful. If you have questions or would like coaching, radicalcounselor.com. Until next time, stay real.